had something with the history of science and sort of talking about that. And so sort of the question I've been asking each week is, like, how would you advise people to get involved from the way that you approach this?
Well, I can tell you my own story is that as an artist, even as a very young artist, I was always interested in subject matter of science and medicine in the body, right? And during my undergraduate degree, I took a human anatomy drawing class where we finished by drawing in the anatomy lab. And so we were doing anatomical drawings off of cadavers in a medical school. And that was a very profound experience for me. And I after that went for a couple of years and drew in that same lab. And I eventually, like 10 years later, got a job working in that lab. I was a media tech support person in that anatomy lab as an adult. And those first experiences taught me that, like, we think that scientists, but also like their rooms and their whole industry is like so special and smart and separate from us that we're afraid to go in and talk to them and do stuff. And to be invited into an anatomy lab is a very big accomplishment and like something to be grateful for. And grateful because these bodies have been donated by human beings who passed on, but also grateful because that is a sacred space of scientific education, and for them to share their resources with me was pretty amazing. So what I learned out of that is that you can go places where you don't belong, as long as you act, you're pleasant, professional, nice, ask questions, show interest. Like people, the scientists are just like us. If you show interest in what they're doing, they want to talk to you. And so now, many years later that I'm a professor, I try and teach. I have assignments. I also teach a lot of intermediate, like performance, installation, these types of classes. And quite often the last assignment in that class is that you have to go somewhere where you don't belong, and you're not allowed to break the law, and you're not allowed to hurt anybody. And even the bioart class, I don't care if any of them like go on to become bioartists. I don't need to make an army of bioartists. I want people to know that you can just ask and people will let you in. And it's scary and you don't want them to know that you're a moron and you don't, but you can make things happen. And I think that this assignment about going somewhere where you don't belong is my attempt to replicate those early moments for my students. And they do a wide range of things. Like, so, for example, one of the students would go up to people's doors and knock on the door and ask them if they could use their bathroom. And, you know, about half a dozen people said, okay, and let the person in. They quickly took a picture of the bathroom and then left. What are some of the other places that people went where they don't belong? People, I also told them, like, you don't have to just trick people. You can get somewhere where you don't belong by getting a job or by pulling in a contact. I had a student whose dad was a surgeon, and, you know, use any resources at your availability. So she got her dad to figure out that on Thursdays at 3, they sterilize the whole surgical theaters, and all the theaters are closed for 1 hour. And her dad, and they figured out that actually there were these little windows of time of about 5 minutes before that, before it was sterilized, that possibly they could go in there. And so her dad let her go inside of a surgical theater, and she took pictures just of her and her dad sitting on the operating table together, having a chit-chat. Yeah, so that would be my advice. And pertains to art and science, but also to anything else you want to do. If you want to go and see how, you know, a fireman lives, call up, be polite, ask for an appointment, and 9 times out of 10 they will invite you in and you can come see. Does that answer your question?
Yes. I actually have another question.
Sure.
Sort of with what you were talking about with communication with the larger public, and something that I've been talking about in some of my classes is there's this sort of disconnect between sort of the scientific community and sort of what they've concluded, like for climate science, how 97% of scientists have come to this consensus. There are all sorts of rigorous conclusions that have been drawn, and yet there's this huge disbelief or willing disbelief And so the communication between the public and the sciences, so you go on parades and you do displays and you have free food, how would you connect to a large population from this information that?
I think coming from a media studies background, that to connect with much larger populations, you need to do so digitally or electronically, right? And I think that there are a variety of different ways to do that. I think that science historically, as an industry or as a community, has been so focused on generating information and data and communicating it amongst themselves. Like there's a very strong structure of peer review and communication amongst scientists, but I don't think there's a long trajectory or history of science communications. And I think that that is something that should be invested in far more substantially. I don't think artists are the right people to do that. I often get scientists who will come up to me and say, oh great, you can be my science communicator. And I'm like, no, because I usually communicate things you don't want to talk about. So I think science communications has got to really grow as a field. But I also think that, I mean, what the scientists are not responsible for is the very adversarial political climate that we're living in today, and the real push towards, continuously using the world's resources in a way that is harmful. And I think that part of what's going to happen in that specific instance is just like, catastrophic negative outcomes. Yeah.
This is kind of building on that, and maybe you can't go anywhere because we only have a few minutes left. But I think that's part of my hesitation, and I feel like also with, I think it was her name, Professor Robinson, who was in here earlier, talking about bio-art, and that it seems like there is this real motivation for artists to get in and really question what scientists are doing. But on the other hand, we have this kind of false questioning, I think, anyway, in terms of climate science and evolution and all of this. And I'm like, wow, yes. We're just all here keeping negativity on scientists when their labs are closing right now anyway.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I feel that when I started this research 15 years ago, that was not the case. And I felt that the questioning was imperative. But you'll notice that the visual metaphors of my work and that the tone of my work has changed substantially towards a more collaborative, vital image of our biotech future. And I think that's purposeful. I think because right now, rather than really attempting to critically engage with the data and the outcomes that science has given us, we're just saying, I don't believe you. And that's that. The larger social effect of that critical position being so celebrated is really bad for all of us. I think that there is a lot that science has to offer us. And so I think my own position has become far more subtle and complicated as a result. I don't know what to do because I don't want to just enter. Part of me thinks that maybe I just need to quit all of this stuff and become a science communicator. I'm good at it. People have fun when they do projects with me. Maybe I should just go do that for 10 years, just ideologically. Because you're right, I feel like sometimes the intention is very positive and maybe more about creating subtleties, but those subtleties aren't translating, and we could be inadvertently piling on this sort of mass critique of scientific data that's really dangerous. Yeah, so it's hard. I'm not always sure.
Can I ask you a last question?
Sure.
A short question. Is Incubator open to people who are outside of the University of Windsor?
Yes, but it takes a little work, right? So if you guys just want to come for a visit, you can contact me, okay? My information's on the website. I have my business cards with me. Anyone who wants one today can take them. What we often do is when we run the class, there's often a couple of visitors who come to labs. So if you just want to come to a class for a day, we can make that happen. The other thing that I've been trying to do is more substantial visits. So we have a lot of people coming down, like maybe field trips will come down from Toronto or New York to come and spend a couple days, and we have like a package we can produce that allows people this sort of post-industrial experience of tromping in the woods and smelling the yeast and growing it in the lab. So I'm trying to create sort of more immersive opportunities for guests as larger groups. And then the other thing that happens often is every time we run the class, there's usually 1 or 2 people enrolled in the class who are not students at the University of Windsor, but they want to learn more about bioart or they want to come and work more in the lab. So if any of you actually would like to, register, or you know someone who would like to come and try it for a semester, we can make that happen as well. Yeah.
Would that happen through the university or through you? Or
well, I'm a good contact person, and then what I do is I put you in touch with the person who knows how to fill out the paperwork, and it's complicated, and that's why it has to happen on a case-by-case basis, but I've done it lots of times. Yeah. And the new space will be, like right now, our space is really small, and it's hidden away. The new space will become a public format, so there'll be a lot more public events and opportunities to just pop by. The other thing I will say, and I will send you the information you can pass on to the class, on December 10th, we're having an event called the BioArt Bouffant. It is going to be a cabaret held at a theater in Windsor. And we have booked an opera singer, a street performer, and a drag queen. And we are going to present the outcomes. The students in the BioArt class right now are collaborating with hairstylists, and they're making BioArt projects that are presented in their hair or as a hat. And it'll be like a big, like a pageant, like a beauty pageant, but gone awry, where all the students present their unusual projects, and there'll be these performances, and there's a bar. It'll be really weird and fun, and it's an hour and away from here. So if you guys want to, probably want to come down and check it out, I can help you get some tickets. And so I will send you the information you can disperse it to the class. Cool. All right, nice to